I'm 34 years old and I finished my first sketchbook in 20 years. And honestly, part of me kind of felt silly to post this, but the more I sat with this little book, the more I realized it wasn't about the sketchbook. So I want to walk you through it because I feel like what I learned in this sketchbook is something that might matter to you too. This actually started over a year ago when I picked up the artist way. And it wasn't because I was trying to get back to being an artist. It's because I felt like I was missing a part of me that I lost when I stopped being creative. I was trying to find this part of me that I had abandoned on my way to becoming practical, responsible, useful. So the goal became really clear. I'm just trying to come back to myself, not become this big artist. And weirdly, the more I started showing up for myself in this area, the more things started to happen. I got freelance work with local businesses. Then I got to be part of a book with other local artists. And in between all this, there was a moment where I was like, maybe I am an artist. Not because anyone validated me, but because I had finally given myself the room to create the body of work that backed up what I wanted to believe about myself. It was self-trust built brick by brick, slowly throughout a whole year. Okay, so let me actually walk you through it. I'm gonna start off by saying that this is the very first sketchbook I've ever really invested money on, because all my other ones have always been cheap sketchbooks. And this one actually was made by an artist. Her name is Elaine Lee. I'm gonna link her stuff below, not because I am affiliated or anything. It's just because I really like her classes, and her sketchbook has actually inspired me to actually finish a sketchbook. And it's a fabric cover, has a little pocket in the back. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that a lot of the work in here is bad, but you can see the progress as we move along in the book. This is my cover page. I started April 2025 and finished exactly April 2026. So I just finished the sketchbook, but this was actually not my first page. I was very nervous about my first page. So I felt like messing up a different page and then getting back to my first page. And this was actually my first page. I just did all kinds of doodles. I wasn't worried about it being perfect because I just wanted to get that first page jitters out of the way. And then I came back and did this page. And then moving through it, I started with black liner pens. It's just something that I had around already. So I was just working with what I had. Watercolor. And then during this sketchbook, my dog of 12 years died. And then I made this piece for it and I wrote something about it, which I don't want to share. And then I started working with alcohol markers, which were some of my favorite tools to use, but it bleeds through the sketchbook. So I didn't do a lot of it after a while just because I would have to cover the back of it. This is Posca markers, and then watercolor again, and some alcohol markers. And then because I do have a 4-year-old, I kind of sketch in pockets of time. This is at the library. I have to find moments where I can sketch and explore, and usually it's before I go to bed. A lot of these are explorations of new tools because last year I just was open to learning any new tool. And mediums, this is gouache. These are the crayons that are watercolored. So it has that texture of a crayon, and then if you put water over it with a brush, it turns kind of smooth. And I was just playing around with them. It was my first time ever using them, so I was not very good. And then this again is black liner and alcohol markers. And then I started going back to basics like color pencils. And one of my biggest fears is doing portraits. So I challenged myself for a few of these. And then I started finding what I felt comfortable with. So from these are probably my worst. And then finally I started getting comfortable. And this is alcohol markers and fine liner. And then this is acrylic markers. This is when the acrylic markers, I first started exploring them. Acrylic markers and color pencils. And then acrylic markers again. And this is, I was just so in love with how vivid the colors feel. And black liner has always been one of my favorite things to work with. So you'll see it across all the different mediums. Acrylic markers, and color pencil. Then I started working on doing minimal scenes. I kind of liked the full coverage on a page. and then color pencils, and then again these like full scenes to cover the page. I was kind of just trying to do a full page a day so I didn't feel like I'd left things halfway done. This was me exploring motifs because I did start working on making my own pattern collection, and then more color pencil and acrylic markers. This is when I actually took one of Elaine Lee's gouache classes because I've never really learned gouache, and so I kind of wanted to learn the medium a little bit. And I'm telling you, her classes are really good because I have never really used this medium, and then at the end of it I was able to like feel a little more comfortable. But I did realize that I really hate mixing colors. This is again, I was working on that pattern collection, and so I was exploring certain things that I was seeing around. This is a mix of different mediums that I've been playing with, that like acrylic markers and those watercolor crayons and some color pencils. So it was a mix of everything actually that I've been playing with this whole sketchbook. And then again, Elaine's classes for the gouache, and then my final piece that I did in that class. Figuring out little motifs to make patterns, another portrait. And the reason why I hate portraits is proportions always throw me off. My faces are always off a little bit. Then I started trying to do some lettering, and then again, those like big minimal scenes, lettering. I really hate some of these color combinations, to be honest with you. This is not my favorite. And then those scenes, and then I started exploring for my current mail club. I started exploring what kind of art I wanted to do, and I was so inspired by Monet, but I wanted to make it my own. And then finally around these pages is where I start like really finding styles that I really like to cover my pages with. And this is acrylic markers, and I just love the smooth and vibrancy of them. This is one of my favorites. And yeah, I finished the book with that same energy of like, oh, acrylic markers are it for me right now. So if I'm honest, almost every single one of the pages in here, I was arguing with that little voice in my head telling me I was too late, that I'm not really that good at it, that maybe this is kind of silly to do, or that I should be further along at this point. But I just kept showing up page by page, and it paid off. I felt a lot more comfortable at the end of the book or the sketchbook, and it was just great. And somewhere around the middle of this sketchbook, something I realized kind of changed everything for me. This sketchbook isn't proof that I'm good at art. It's actually proof that I'm learning how to trust myself again. Because the things that we feel really silly about are usually the places we want to grow and don't fully trust ourselves yet. And every page in this sketchbook was me saying quietly, I'm allowed to explore. I'm allowed to be a beginner again. I'm allowed to make things before I know where I'm going with them. So this sketchbook actually represents permission and also represents self-trust. And I think becoming is the entire reason why I want to make art again. Not to create things that people look at, but to create things that inspire people to reconnect with themselves. Because the more I started exploring again, the more I realized how many of us have abandoned parts of ourselves. Not because we didn't love those things, but because life got practical, or because we were in survival, or maybe just you told yourself it was too late. So this exploration is exactly why I started my mail club, Peachy Parcels. Every month I share what I'm making, what I'm exploring, what mediums I'm exploring, what I'm learning through art about art and myself, and inviting you to try a little bit alongside me. Letters, postcard, prompts, coloring pages, playlist, and a little invitation to create. And this feels full circle because without the sketchbook, none of this would exist. So here's what I'm leaving you with. If you're watching this and there's a part of you that you feel like you've been missing, something that you used to love, something that you only stopped because life got loud, I'd really love to know what it is. You can share it in the comments. What is that one thing you've been trying to come back to? Because if I learned anything from this little sketchbook, it's that creativity isn't something that we earn our way back into. Creativity is actually the way back to ourselves. On to sketchbook number 2. And because you made it this far, I'm going to show you the first 2 pages of my new sketchbook. Ta-da!